I'm gonna call the roll.
Go for it.
Township Supervisor Lisa Rush.
Here.
Highway Commissioner Kula.
Here.
Assessor Ditton. Trustee Larson.
Here.
Trustee McNeil.
Here.
Trustee Delamar. Trustee DeGros is off. We have a quorum, ma'am. Sir, you're the chair.
All right.
All right, first item for discussion, the 2014 financial report and audit. I put this up here, I wanted to give Dave McCartney a chance to talk about some of the recommendations that were in there and what have been done. Not to put you on the spot or anything. I know there were a couple recommendations of things that needed to be taken care of this year, and just wanted to make a status update.
So the only action part that I saw come out of the budget that I read was, over the course of the previous administration, the auditor had made recommendations to do interfund transfers. Specifically, the GA fund, when the clerk extends the levy or the amount, the extension, at that time the supervisor has to notify the treasurer of how to break out the appropriations. That wasn't done between 2009 and 2012, and therefore the GA account for those 3 years went underfunded. It wasn't getting its appropriate amount. That money was being put in the corporate side, and each year the auditor told the supervisor to move the money that should have been in GA to GA, and let's just say that never happened. This year it happened, and Lisa actually, as soon as we got the extensions for 2014, actually wrote the treasurer, told him how to appropriate, and for the first time since I've been here, we did it right. So we caught the management report. That first page says you have to do these interfund transfers, so we did them. It's internal. Money doesn't leave the township. It's just moving apples back to apples, oranges back to oranges. It didn't affect the overall assets of the township. It was just putting them back in the right boxes. And going forward, we should have no other problems. I mean, once in a while, because if you're not aware, we have 5 funds. We have 6 funds. We have a town corporate, which does all the town, the assessors. We have the supervisor GA. We have road and bridge. We have permanent hard road, and then we have an account, money market account for permanent hard road, where the DCEO grants go into. When the board approves obligations, we move money from those accounts into a checking account so Lisa can write the check to send it out. So it's constantly, we're moving money from the different funds into checking so that when the checks go to get cashed, there's money there against the check. Occasionally, fat finger, you might miss one, and that's why we have audits. And so if there's ever inter-fund transfer in the future, it'll be negligible, and it would be strictly a fat finger error that wasn't caught. I have three system way of moving money that I have a check and balance to make sure we're moving the right amount of money after the board has approved the appropriations or the pre-approved appropriations. And yeah, I mean, if you ever want to see it, everything's highlighted in yellow. It tells you how much money the bank transfers are there. But that's the only action I saw come out of the audit. Did you see else?
No. Okay, great. Aside from that, I know I went through a comprehensive review. I think Supervisor Rush, you did as well. One of the best audits I think we've seen. So, awesome job to everybody.
Yes.
Everybody give themselves a pat on the back. They did good for the people in the township.
Is there any further discussion on the audit report?
Other than I guess I'd have to highlight on that, because when you brought that up with the GA account, because I know there was some problems in the beginning, I said that's not the way it should be done. I guess it's my fault. I thought it was corrected, so we went what, from 09?
We had to well, we went from, actually I think it was 10, and I don't have the exact figure, but I believe it was 179,000 had to be moved into that's how much it got underfunded.
Yeah.
And the auditor brought that out to the previous supervisor, and it was like, you know, he didn't say make it happen. He didn't come in and say, you know, it's just, don't worry about it.
The money was accrued for, it just wasn't transferred to the accounts properly. So the money never left the building or anything, as it were.
And that's something that happens at the county level, right? You could tell the clerk's or treasurer's office to put it in GA and.
Right, that Lisa sends a memorandum to the treasurer. Once you get the extension, you know the amount, Lisa will send an email to the treasurer saying,
Yeah.
based on what you levied or what the extensions are, and based on your levies,
Right. That's the way it's always been done.
82.7% get distributed to the corporate, and the remainder goes to GA.
Right. And road and whatever else.
Well, that's never been an issue with those, those
They're all
have been
right.
funded properly.
Yeah, right. So I'm glad we got that straightened out.
Any further discussion on the audit? Hearing none, moving on, discussion on the levy. I'll give everybody a couple quick basic facts that I've confirmed through the county clerk. This year, the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, is at 1.5%. Because we are not home ruled, that is our tax cap for the year. So it's not 5%, it's 1.5 this year. Last year, we actually snuck in a little bit because it was based on our highest previous 3-year levy, which was based on an $800,000 number, including the GA was close to 950. So our 5% increase made it through without any issues. This year, just giving everybody the heads up, it is 1.5%.
That's our max cap.
That is our max cap. That would be an increase of about $8,500 to the town fund, and it was about $2,000 on the GA side.
Unless we go through a special tax levy meeting.
Yeah, so the other options we have available to us, we can, no matter what we do, if we ask for more than we are allowed to, what happens at the county clerk's office is they say, sorry, you can't get more than the, in this case, 1.5%, and they will automatically bring that request down to the appropriate level that we're limited to by PTAL. But what we could do if we chose to is we could say we want 5%, we want 5.1%, we could force a truth in taxation hearing. It doesn't mean that we get anything, it just gives us a forum to be able to discuss that with the public and make it a very open, transparent process to say, we'd like more, we know we won't get it, but we'd like more and this is why. We could do something absolutely ridiculous and say we want 80%. We're still only gonna get 1.5, but there's a lot of different options that are available there. If we wanted to do anything to significantly solve the problem in the short term, you know, the county clerk's office has recommended or suggested that we go to referendum. That's the only way we can change our base taxable number. So considering that, the other thing, I put a couple of spreadsheets in front of you, just some quick information. Last year I asked Assessor Ditton for a breakout of parcels and some other information so that we could do some calculations. Marty Paulson over at the County Assessor's Office was happy to provide some of this information to me. The first document that has a number of taxable parcels and the levies for each township in Lake County. I was unable to get information for Antioch, Newport, or Shields in time. But you'll see the rest of the townships are there, the number of parcels, the levy, the assessor's portion. I'm sort of breaking this out so we can truly understand the impact of the decisions that we're making. If we look really carefully, Avon Township is the last one on that. Based on the budget that was provided, we're looking at approximately $12 per parcel that we allocate for the assessor's office. The average is in the 20s. And from a revenue standpoint, we have the lowest revenue per parcel of any township in the county by at least, I mean, it's horrific. Our revenue number is, $23.64 per parcel. The next closest one is Benton at $48.99, and the average is sitting in the high 70s. So we're looking at our levy is significantly low based on the number of properties we need to assess, the amount of people, our population base here. It's a significant shortfall. Underneath that, you'll see some weigh out their numbers regarding some potential increases, what that would look like, just sort of for some food for thought things. The second spreadsheet is gonna show, this is the past 4 years of appeal filings by township. And what we'll see, I kinda wanna demonstrate, if you look towards the bottom, Lakeville, Fremont, and Grant, consistently are at the bottom end of the number of appeals by percentage within the county. They've consistently performed at that same level, and they've minimized those appeals. And, you know, they're properly funded for being able to do that. If we look at Avon, since after 2011, as we've had levy reductions and the budgets have been cut at the assessor's office, we've gone from, 13 out of 18, which is a really good thing, to this past year, we are now number 2 in terms of percentage of appeals. It's gotten slightly better, but other townships have gotten better still than we have. Again, justification for, perhaps justification that we could have received last year for understanding the assessor's needs a little bit better. But it just shows that we're way underfunded in the tax hit that we took a few years ago. It's now something that, we need to consider, potentially going to referendum and asking the voters to help fix the problem.
If we translated this out to all of our funds, we would see the same thing, that we're completely underfunded compared to other townships.
Absolutely, at least from the town side and the GA side. I can't speak to the highway side. There's comparison information there that I wasn't looking for, but that's really Bob's budget. It's not something that, Commissioner Kula's budget. It's not something we typically do other than, look over with him and approve. A significant difference in the number of roads or the miles of roads that need to be maintained. It's, Antioch and Grant are both well over 100 miles. Warren's over 100 miles as well, or pretty close.
78,
Yeah, and our percentage or mileage in roads is significantly lower, so I don't know, these comparisons don't merit out for that, but it certainly does from a town and a GA side. Lake Villa, which was one of the ones we mentioned, they levy $1.3 million a year. Fremont is 1.1, Grant is 1.1, and we get 565 really. We have less than half of the other townships with high levels of parcels, so.
But if you even percentage this out, not one assessor gets the highest percentage of what our assessor gets of a town budget.
They don't, but that's because their funding is so significantly higher overall. Well, if you compare apples to apples,
Look at Warren, who gets 449 with a $4.279 million budget.
Right, but let's look at Fremont, who has 296, and understand that the budgets between each different department may not account for everything that's in there. There's probably bits and pieces that are missing with Fremont, but they have half the number of parcels we have too.
Well, I equate this to the same thing that we talked about with school funding. There are some districts that levy a huge amount of money, and so they're able to spend a huge amount of money. It's not so much what we levy that is the impact, it's the fact that this is the money that we get in. I'd love to, we've shortchanged a lot about what we do here because of the amount of money that we levy. I don't think that means that we can essentially just give people money, anybody, I'm not talking about anybody specific, just because other people get it. If that would be the case, Round Lake should be spending what Lake Forest spends on their high school. And that's not, and so I understand this is all rational, and that's why I brought up the whole thing about the percentages of our levy affects every single department, and all of our departments and all of our avenues that we have fingers into have to deal with the budget they have. We would love to raise the levy, but unfortunately, with the way that, well, I shouldn't say we would love to raise the levy. We would love the opportunity to be able to raise the levy to meet the needs that are equal to the needs of other townships that have continually raised that levy. But unfortunately, in this climate, in this day and age, that's gonna be a tough road to hoe. So we have to live within the means in which we have for us. And all of us are gonna have to take a little bit of step back and live within the budget, just like I mean, I've listened to Bob at every single meeting, talk about every single penny he stretches and cuts and how he looks for ways to turn around. I look at what we do within the GA account and struggling with every single cent that we have to spend. It is a reality that this is the levy we have. That shouldn't give us any means to be able to say, oh yeah, you have lots of parcels, therefore you need to have more money. We have the money that.
And if I could just add about, and it really is coming down to a management issue, is that you've got to learn how to work with what you're given. And we know there was mismanagement. We know that you cannot do the task that you're assigned to do when you allow all these other things to interfere with what you have to do every single day. And that's people not being here, having other jobs, you not being here. I mean, 5 people could make a lot more production out of that office than what they have done in the past. My 2 cents. Management.
And my reflection in it really about that office as much as about the position that the township is in general. We've had cuts all the way along that have hurt this township, and we're dealing with the fallout of that. Nobody's happy about it,
No.
but it is what we have to deal with. And so we have done the best we could, and all of the trustees, and I can say this because I don't vote, all of the trustees should be patting themselves on the back, and the supervisor as well, of how hard they work to live within their means, and to set a budget that is reflective of the means in which they were given, not anything they could do to change it. It was given to you. And I think you've done a commendable job.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, we have what we have. The question, sitting before us is, we're talking about the levy, not the budget at this point. The question becomes, can we look at,
How do we raise the levy?
do we look at potentially $10,000 to $12,000 increases for the next 3 years, which, continues to leave us in this position, or do we look at talking to the voters and saying,
There's no way they're gonna say yes.
are you willing to, invest back in the community?
Especially now township, look at how many people we have here wanting to discuss this. This is not a high priority. And when you go to the doors and ask them to raise that their property taxes are gonna go up, it's gonna be a big fat no. Okay, a big fat no. It is, because they're not gonna wanna raise this to go back to this.
All right, just sort of looking at the time,
Wanna adjourn this one?
yeah, is there,
Just, this is very good information, Chris. I want to make
Yes,
sure you
it
know
is.
it's good information, Chris.
It's good information to have. All right.
okay, that being said, I'd like to table the discussion until our next meeting in 2 weeks.
Sorry?
We got a motion to skip new business tonight and go to adjournment.
So,
Yeah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion for adjournment, please.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Hi, Carolina.